In the news tonight, at least 15 people were killed and 50 wounded when a suicide bomber targeted a busy street in Baghdad's southern city and detonated a pickup truck in the deadliest attack this year. The UN Special Envoy for Syria says the Geneva peace talks agenda will be in line with the UN Security Council resolution aimed at ending the conflict and will not be changed. And US President Donald Trump urges the Israeli Prime Minister to curb settlement activity and says he would work to bring about peace between the Palestinians and Israelis. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Hussein attended a ceremony in the Mafraq Governorate marking Veterans Day and honoring the sacrifices of ex-servicemen. Deputizing for His Majesty King Abdullah, Prince Faisal opened a club for retired servicemen in Mafraq, one in a series of similar clubs that will be founded in other governorates. Prince Faisal toured the three-story building comprising a library, a space for sports activities and a hall for special events. Today, February 15, has been designated a national day in recognition of the achievements and sacrifices of veteran warriors and ex-servicemen. Minister of Foreign and Expatriate Affairs Ayman Safadi discussed with the United Nations Secretary General's representative in Iraq, Jan Kubis, the importance of launching a political process in Iraq that leads to national reconciliation with the participation of all components of the Iraqi society. Safadi stressed Jordan's support to efforts that aim at achieving security and stability in Iraq. The meeting also reviewed the need for continued coordination of efforts between the various players to sustain the security of Iraq in the post-Daesh era. Kubis highlighted Jordan's pivotal role in dealing with regional issues and bringing peace and stability to the region. In Iraq, meanwhile, at least 15 people were killed and 50 were wounded when a suicide bomber detonated a pickup truck in Baghdad's suburb of Sadr City, a heavily populated poor Shiite suburb of Baghdad. The explosion was the deadliest in Baghdad so far in the past 2 months, targeting a crowded street full of garages and used car dealers. Daesh has stepped up bombings in Iraq last year in retaliation to a US-backed campaign that dislodged the terrorist group from most Iraqi cities it took over in 2014. Citing security concerns, the United Nations Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator for Iraq, Liz Grant, said the UN was forced to pause its aid operations this week in East Mosul. Grant said aid will be resumed after the security conditions in the city have been reassessed. Residents in the east have been without electricity for months and have been forced to dig wells for water. In their offensive to retake control of Mosul, Iraqi forces are gathering on the perimeter of West Mosul, where hundreds of thousands of people are estimated to be living, for a renewed attack expected to start in the coming days. The late arrival of the Syrian rebel delegation in the Kazakh capital Astana has put off the start of talks until tomorrow. The rebels had earlier threatened to boycott the talks, accusing Russia of failing to get Damascus to comply fully with a ceasefire. But a leading rebel delegate who had attended the previous round of Astana talks last month said a small delegation, including military and legal representatives, would attend. The parties will discuss the ceasefire plan put forward last month with hopes to produce a document at the end of talks. The talks involve Russia, Iran and Turkey. Meanwhile, a spokeswoman for UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, said he would not attend the talks in Astana. Mistura was invited and attended the first round of negotiations last month. Speaking in Rome, de Mistura said he hoped Syrian opposition groups would be able to form a unified front at the talks in Astana. As for the talks due to begin in Geneva next week, de Mistura said the agenda will be in line with the UN Security Council resolution aimed at ending the conflict and will not be changed. The resolution was unanimously adopted in December 2015.
We have an agenda. And the agenda is Resolution 2254. Is a resolution which was adopted unanimously by the Security Council and has got three main points. A new form of governance. Second, a new constitution and new elections under UN supervision. That is the agenda, and we will not change it. Otherwise, we open up a Pandora box, which was very well framed by the Resolution 2254.
Earlier, Salim al-Muslat, spokesman for the High Negotiations Committee representing the Syrian opposition, said the opposition wants face-to-face negotiations with the government about a political transition at the Geneva peace talks. He said there could be no role for President Bashar al-Assad in the transition, as the heavy price paid by the Syrian people would have been wasted if he remained in power. He stressed that the negotiations should start with discussion of the transition.
We want direct talks, direct negotiation, just to save time and save lives, because every day is costly for Syrians. Direct negotiation proves who is serious and who wants to save lives in Syria.
U.S. President Donald Trump urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to curb settlement activity and said he would work to bring about peace between the Palestinians and Israelis, but that it would be up to the parties themselves ultimately to reach an agreement. Trump offered no new prescription for UN blocking the peace process or achieving a deal, and said he would abide by whatever the two parties decide. He did not explicitly endorse a two-state solution. Trump and Netanyahu met face-to-face for the first time in Washington as Palestinians urged the White House not to abandon the goal of an independent state. Speaking at the joint news conference, Trump vowed to work toward a Palestinian-Israeli peace deal, but said it would require compromise on both sides. Trump also echoed Netanyahu's calls for Palestinians to recognize Israel as a Jewish state, which the Palestinian leadership refuses to do, and to halt what they described as incitement against Israelis.
So I'm looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one. I thought for a while the two-state looked like it may be the easier of the two. But honestly, if Bibi and if the Palestinians, if Israel and the Palestinians are happy, I'm happy with the one they like the best.
We have to look for new ways, new ideas on how to reinstate them and how to move peace forward. And I believe that the great opportunity for peace comes from a regional approach, from involving our newfound Arab partners in the pursuit of a broader peace and peace with the Palestinians.
A White House spokesman had said earlier that Palestinian-Israeli peace did not necessarily have to entail Palestinian statehood, and that the U.S. president would not try to dictate a solution. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, speaking in Rome today, warned against abandoning the idea of a two-state solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He said there is no alternative solution, and every effort must be done to maintain the two-state solution. In his debut trip to Europe as the Pentagon chief, U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis warned NATO allies in Brussels that they must honor military spending pledges to ensure the United States does not moderate support for the alliance. He said investing in common defense was vital, given the challenges that have emerged since 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine and Daesh terrorist group emerged as a threat on NATO member Turkey's southern border. Europe's low expenditure has long been a sore point for the United States, which puts up 70% of the alliance funds, and the United States for years has called for European allies to spend 2% of economic output on defense. Other defense chiefs appeared to back up Mattis' plea, and he was broadly seen to be reassuring NATO of America's commitment after a continuous election campaign that put allies on edge. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani arrived in Kuwait after visiting Oman in a bid to lower tensions between Tehran and Gulf states. The one-day visit to Gulf neighbor states, Oman and Kuwait, is Rouhani's first since taking power in 2013. Last month, Kuwait's foreign minister made a rare visit to Tehran and called for frank dialogue between Iran and its regional neighbors. Insurrected and Other Side of Hope, two films about Syria and screened at the 67th Berlin Film Festival, have brought tears and smiles to the audience. Insurrected by Belgian director Philip van Loo, was shot almost entirely inside the walls of an apartment that becomes a prison to the leading character Yazan, played by Palestinian actress Hiam Abbas. The Other Side of Hope by Finnish director Aki Kauris Mäki uses humor to sketches the experience of a Syrian asylum seeker who decided to remain in a stowaway illegally after his application was rejected. The films underline the courage under fire of ordinary Syrians who find themselves caught in the midst of an all-out war. Here's more.
Filmgoers in Berlin taken inside an apartment in Syria while war rages outside. Seen through the eyes of a mother trying to survive the ongoing civil war, Insurrected moved audiences when it screened at the Berlin Film Festival. Lead actress Hiam Abbas seeing it for the first time too, and hoping it will humanize the plight of Syrian refugees.
I'm really sad to say that I was very happy yesterday because of the reactions of the people. For me, it was the first time I discovered the movie with the audience as well. And somehow the silence after the screening of people said it all. I myself was speechless after.
While Insurrected is a tense and claustrophobic film, Aki Kauris Mäki's take on the refugee crisis is a dark comedy.
Mikäs mies sinä olet?
I live here. This is my bedroom.
No way.
At his film's fittingly fun news conference, the Finnish star saying he hopes to change the world.
Do you want to fight?
But I'm bigger.
So what?
Through humour, Syrian asylum seeker Khalid's experience in Helsinki unfolds. The actor himself escaped his home in Syria before war broke out. Two different films putting the focus in Berlin on the refugees.
Over to New York Fashion Week, and design duo Mark Badgley and James Mischaka showcased their luxurious evening gowns at the Industrious Gallery at the Skylight Clarkson Square, decorated to resemble a glamorous home with furniture matching the designer's aesthetics. The Couture collection had gowns in gold brocade, rich velvet and jewel-crusted hemlines. The collection used rich gold colors such as gold, silver and dark navy and reds.
Sing your song, sing out for me. Give it everything you've got, just one more time for me.
And designer Brandon Maxwell turned out a collection he said came straight from his heart. Although Maxwell stayed true to his design aesthetic with layers and mainly a black and white color palette, he said newfound joy brought out additional hues. Strong shoulders were used on dresses and jackets. Cutouts and crop top gave the collection its edge. Since his launch in 2015, celebrities including Nicole Kidman, Naomi Campbell and former US First Lady Michelle Obama have worn his designs. New York Fashion Week wraps up tomorrow.
Black or white.
Australian long-distance swimming Grant Hackett was arrested and detained by police in the Gold Coast after a breakdown at his parents' home. The troubled triple Olympic champion's father had called the police so his 36-year-old son could be given help. Hackett's father said the swimmer had not made any threats, but was not what you say as a normal person. The 10-times world champion returned to the pool last year to make an unsuccessful bid to qualify for the Rio Olympics. Ruma, a German Shepherd, was named Best in Show at the 141st Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, besting more than 2,800 other dogs that competed in New York this week. It marks the second time a German Shepherd has won the top prize at the show. The breed last won in 1987, which also represents the only other time a dog from the herding group has won a Westminster. A total of 200 breeds vied for the Blue Ribbon at Westminster, which began in 1877, making it the country's second longest running sporting event behind the Kentucky Derby horse race launched in 1875. And finally, cold and a rainy night prevails in most regions with northwesterly moderate winds, while snowfall is expected over areas with an altitude over 1,000 meters above sea level. Tomorrow, a drop in temperature is forecast with a low of 1 degree Celsius in Amman, accompanied by moderate to high winds, as well as a thundery rainfall and hail. Snowfall is also expected over areas at 900 meters above sea level. In the Gulf of Aqaba, it will be relatively cold with cloudy skies and northerly moderate winds, while the seas will be slightly choppy. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here are top stories once again. At least 15 people were killed and 50 wounded when a suicide bomber targeted a busy street in Baghdad's southern city and detonated a pickup truck in the deadliest attack this year. The UN Special Envoy for Syria says the Geneva peace talks agenda will be in line with a UN Security Council resolution aimed at ending the conflict and will not be changed. And US President Donald Trump urges the Israeli Prime Minister to curb settlement activity and says he would work to bring about peace between the Palestinians and Israelis. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Lawal Balkar. Stay warm.